Hannah suggested that I move into a budget-friendly apartment, believing my home-based activities didn't justify my living in the family house. Fresh from the city, she was determined to take my place in the home I shared with my in-laws. They never truly understood my work-from-home lifestyle, and now, with Hannah's influence, even my husband, William, seemed to conspire against me. It was disheartening that they didn't recognize that I was the one shouldering the mortgage for the house. The realization hit me hard. Why should I remain with people who made me feel unwanted? If they were so eager for me to leave, then that was exactly what I would do. I had reached my limit, and fueled by frustration, I decided to transfer the mortgage responsibilities to them. After making that choice, I ended my marriage with William and stepped away, unaware of the challenges they would soon face without me. My name is Amy. William, my husband, was 3 years older than me. Our paths crossed at work, but ours was no ordinary workplace romance. William worked for the janitorial service at my office. Life had dealt me a harsh blow when I lost both my parents in quick succession. My father fell ill and was given only 5 months to live. During his illness, my mother also succumbed to her own health problems. With their passing, I was left to navigate life alone, having no siblings or parents to turn to. The grief would often overwhelm me at unexpected moments, bringing me to tears. Yet I masked my sorrow with smiles, especially at work. The day William and I first truly connected, I was lost in thought by a window trying to hide my pain. Although we had exchanged nods before, we had never really talked. That day, William approached me, checking in on my somber mood. Opening up to him felt surprisingly easy, perhaps because he was somewhat of a stranger. When he learned about my parents, his empathy provided comfort. He shared his close relationship with his own parents, which helped me feel less alone in my sense of loss. This marked the beginning of our conversations and eventually our relationship outside of work. When we started dating, William introduced me to his parents, who welcomed me warmly and offered kindness in light of my situation. Our bond with his family deepened effortlessly, leading us to marriage without the need for a traditional proposal. After our wedding, we found a cozy apartment near his parents and embarked on a new life together, envisioning a future that might include starting a family. I shifted careers to a remote role for more flexibility. Although I shared this significant change with William, he didn't fully grasp what it entailed. He knew I worked from home, but the nuances of my job were a mystery to him. Despite the job change, my income remained stable, allowing me to cover our living expenses. William earned less, so we agreed he would save his earnings. His financial contributions were minimal, primarily because his social life was modest and inexpensive, mostly involving outings with me or friends. He was comfortable with me managing our finances, which suited us well. Working remotely brought many benefits, including the joy of sharing leisurely meals with William, a luxury I never had at my old job. Cooking had once been a simple affair, but eager to please him, I found delight in preparing more intricate meals. Our life together felt tranquil and fulfilling. However, a few years into our marriage, an unexpected crisis struck. A devastating fire destroyed William's childhood home, erasing cherished memories and belongings. Thankfully, his parents were safe, but the loss was immense. They moved in with us temporarily, and I sought to uplift them, much like they had supported me through my own parents' deaths. I took on additional household duties and made comforting meals while managing my work. Despite our best efforts to make them feel at home, William's parents were acutely aware of the dependence on us and expressed concerns about overstaying their welcome. They clearly longed for their independence, which led William and me to a significant decision. We would build a new home to accommodate all of us. Although we had never explicitly discussed this before, it felt right given our circumstances. I had been saving diligently, separate from William's savings, and the timing seemed perfect to use those funds to construct a new home, a place symbolizing a fresh start for his parents while honoring the past. The original house, a charming wooden structure built by my great-grandfather, held many memories but was no longer practical. Our decision to build a new house was met with joy and gratitude from William's parents, marking the beginning of an exciting new chapter for all of us. This collaborative effort was a testament to our family's resilience in the face of adversity. As William's parents aged, their health concerns grew, leading to numerous special requests for the new house we planned to build. Eager to ensure their comfort, William proposed several additional features, which of course drove the cost significantly higher than we had initially planned. Despite the escalating expenses, we were determined to make it work. I embraced the enhancements for our new home, believing in the long-term benefits they would bring. Around this time, I began to notice a shift in dynamics between William and his parents, Samantha and Tyler. He started to assert himself as the primary force behind the house's construction, and they frequently expressed their gratitude to him while overlooking my financial contributions entirely. Despite the mortgage and ownership documents being in my name and the down payment coming from my savings, it seemed William hadn't shared these details with them. His constant claims led his parents to pressure me into showing gratitude for something I felt I had rightfully contributed to. My contributions weren't about seeking acknowledgement from William, Samantha, or Tyler. I contributed more financially simply because I was able to, not out of a desire for thanks. However, William's failure to correct his parents' misconceptions, combined with his jokes about my supposed indebtedness to him, left me feeling deeply frustrated. I didn't demand he disclose the full extent of my contributions, but I hoped he would at least stop diminishing my role. Instead, he seemed emboldened by the house construction project, and to my dismay, I discovered he was spreading falsehoods about his employment, falsely claiming a connection to the prestigious company I was associated with. While he did have business interactions with them, the way he presented it was misleading. This pattern of dishonesty and inflated self-importance eroded my trust in him, making interactions with his parents increasingly uncomfortable as they seemed to favor him unconditionally. I had hoped moving into our new home would alleviate these tensions, but the opposite happened. Once we settled in, the underlying issues intensified. William and his parents failed to understand the legitimacy of my remote work, misinterpreting my home-based job as leisure. Complaints about my supposed idleness became more frequent, accompanied by insinuations that I should contribute more despite my financial support and ongoing work commitments. Their attitudes drove me to seek refuge outside our home, opting to work from a cafe just to escape the constant snide remarks. This change in my work environment was a direct response to the growing discomfort and misunderstanding within my own home, highlighting the deepening divide between us. I continually urged William to address his parents' misconceptions about my work. While he might not fully grasp the nature of my job, it was my income that sustained our household, including his parents. All I wanted was for him to communicate this simple truth to them. However, William dismissed my concerns, suggesting I ignore their comments. Consequently, with the perception that I wasn't working, I became burdened with all the household chores, and his parents began to treat me like their personal assistant. Reaching my breaking point, I confronted them, expecting William's support during my moment of distress. Instead, he rebuked me for speaking out and shockingly presented me with divorce papers as a threat to conform to their expectations. His unprecedented anger and ultimatum left me feeling powerless, forcing me to reluctantly acquiesce to their demands. Following this incident, both William and his parents became distinctly indifferent towards me, leaving me with only my work as a respite, a means to escape the harsh reality of my home life. During this tumultuous period, Hannah, William's sister, came to visit our new home and decided to extend her stay. Almost immediately, William's parents began to air their grievances about me to her, criticizing me for spending too much time isolated with my computer and insinuating that I was neglecting my responsibilities. I felt as though I was living off their generosity without contributing, and they mocked my dedication to my work, questioning its validity and jesting that I must be a nerd for being so engaged with technology, all while suggesting I did nothing meaningful. Their conversations took a demeaning turn as they speculated about my past role, incorrectly suggesting that I had been a cleaner at Williams' company. This speculation was fueled by Williams' deceitful claims about his employment, creating an inverted narrative where he was positioned as a high-ranking employee while I was cast as a menial worker. This fabricated reality left me isolated and discredited. When Hannah announced her decision to move in permanently after quitting her job in the apparel industry, citing a desire for change and the allure of starting a business from our new, more luxurious home, my situation worsened. Her decision was met with enthusiasm from William and his parents, further marginalizing me in my own home. I found myself relegated to eating alone, preparing meals for a family that no longer included me at their table, all while juggling my work responsibilities. This arrangement persisted until Hannah's departure date when she unexpectedly declared her intention to stay indefinitely, finding the house comfortable and seizing the opportunity to reset her career. Her announcement was celebrated by William's parents and William himself, who took pride in the praise for the house, solidifying my position as an outsider within my own home. Despite Hannah's recent decision to stay with us permanently, there was no specific room allocated for her. Until her announcement, she had been occupying the guest room, but her new permanent status required a more permanent solution, and our house lacked additional space. After spending 2 weeks with us, Hannah boldly stated her expectation for me to vacate. "I'll live here, so you should leave," she declared confidently, suggesting that my home-based lifestyle didn't merit a place in such a desirable home. She insinuated that I should find a less expensive living arrangement elsewhere. Samantha, aligning with Hannah, dismissed my attempts to explain the validity of my work, leaving me defenseless against their baseless judgments. The assertion that I was unproductive simply because I worked from home was a tactic used to pressure me unfairly. Frustration mounted within me as William passively observed the unfolding drama, neither defending the truth nor correcting the misconceptions. Up to this point, I had remained silent, mindful of William's feelings, but the situation compelled me to assert the truth openly. I confronted Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah, making it clear that the house was registered in my name, the mortgage payments were my responsibility, and the initial down payment had come from my savings, without any financial contribution from William. William's reaction was one of panic, quickly turning into defensive aggression as he attempted to further discredit me, desperately clinging to the facade he had built. His parents and Hannah stood by him, labeling me the liar. It became clear to me that leaving this toxic environment might be the only way to preserve my sanity, especially since they erroneously believed William could handle the financial burden of the household. Determined to extricate myself from this untenable situation, I reconsidered the divorce papers that William had once brandished as a threat. The prospect of transferring the house title to him initially seemed to please him, as he likely envisioned gaining full ownership without grasping the responsibilities that came with it. However, when it came time to change the mortgage into his name, William's true aversion to the complexities of the process became apparent. He naively thought it would be as simple as signing his name, unaware of the legal and financial implications involved. Reluctantly, I accompanied the oblivious William to the bank and to a legal advisor for the necessary consultations. Throughout the meeting, William was fixated on his smartphone, showing little interest until it was time to sign the documents. Eagerly, he asked if this would officially transfer the house into his name. Upon my confirmation, he signed with enthusiasm, completely oblivious to the realities of his new obligations. Once the legal procedures were finalized, the house, along with its mortgage responsibilities, would indeed be transferred to him. I had painstakingly explained the situation multiple times, yet I knew it would only be the full weight of his new role as the sole proprietor that would reveal the true extent of his misconceptions and the financial obligations he had underestimated. I couldn't help but marvel at William's reaction. Even after the transfer of the house and mortgage into his name, he jubilantly shared the news with Samantha, Hannah, and Tyler, still basking in the glow of his perceived success. It baffled me how they could continue to entertain the notion that William was employed by a prestigious company while viewing me as jobless. Watching this unfold filled me with disbelief and a sense of liberation, knowing my next steps were clear. Following the transfer, William planned a trip to celebrate the divorce, instructing me to vacate the house during their absence. They embarked on a lavish trip abroad, expecting me to disappear quietly. Instead, I took decisive action during those 12 days. I sold all the furniture and appliances I had brought into our shared home, packing my personal items as I finalized the sale of a luxurious condo on the top floor of a high-rise building, a place that felt like it had been waiting for me, priced at around $8 million. The timing felt serendipitous, and I seized the opportunity to make it mine. The 3 years spent in turmoil with William's family had taken their toll, but the prospect of starting anew in my condo filled me with excitement. Unbeknownst to them, I had a substantial inheritance from my parents that I had wisely invested over the years, significantly increasing my wealth. I had once dreamed of sharing this fortune with William and retiring early together, but I kept this secret, a decision I now regarded as fortuitous. The disregard for financial prudence had taught me a painful lesson, reinforcing my choice to keep my assets hidden. Moving to the condo allowed me to design a living space that truly reflected my tastes, free from the influence and criticism of William and his family. This new home became my sanctuary, where I could work in peace, surrounded by cherished objects and memories with no one to undermine my lifestyle. I looked forward to exploring new hobbies like joining a cooking class or yoga studio and embracing a tranquil life. Then, unexpectedly, I received a call from William upon his return. His voice was filled with shock and indignation as he discovered the absence of the furniture and appliances. He demanded their return, failing to understand that every item had been purchased with my money, thus it was my right to sell or move them as I pleased. I felt no obligation to leave behind any part of my life with them, wanting to sever all ties to a household that had brought me so much distress. In my new condo, I was truly free, ready to enjoy a life of peace and fulfillment far removed from the turmoil of the past. When I informed William that the items were already sold, he persisted, demanding I repurchase them. I countered by suggesting that someone with a job at a major corporation like him should have no trouble buying new ones. With that, I ended the call and ignored his subsequent attempts to contact me. 2 months after William and his family returned from their celebratory trip abroad, I had fully embraced my new life, forming friendships with my neighbors and enjoying various activities such as cooking classes recommended by a friend living just below my condo. One day, as I returned from a class, William called again, curious yet cautious. I answered, wondering if there was a lingering issue with the paperwork. His voice was filled with panic and confusion, echoing the chaos of their return. He was upset over discovering the monthly loan repayment amount of $6,100 and questioned why the loan hadn't been settled. He seemed completely unaware of the financial responsibilities that now lay with him, despite the bank's thorough explanation, which he had clearly ignored. His disbelief that the mortgage wasn't paid off revealed just how little attention he had paid during the transfer process. I vividly recalled sitting beside him, observing his disinterest, and now he was frantically seeking a way out of his new obligations. But it was too late. He had already signed the mortgage over to his name. William's realization that he was solely responsible for the loan repayments marked a turning point. His assumption that I would be struggling after the divorce was utterly baseless. I had managed our finances throughout our marriage, ensuring a comfortable life for both of us. Reflecting on the past 5 months, I pondered William's lifestyle with his family, likely living beyond their means under Hannah's influence until the reality of the mortgage finally hit them. His predicament felt distant to me now, as if it belonged to a stranger, and I found myself indifferent to their financial woes. I took a moment to enlighten William about my current situation, living comfortably in a luxurious condo thanks to my successful investments. His silence on the phone was telling. And after that revelation, his calls ceased, leading me to believe he had somehow coped with his situation. Unexpectedly, William reached out again, reigniting the connection I thought had been severed. Despite our history, I felt a sense of detachment as our lives had diverged significantly since the divorce. My focus remained on my newfound independence and tranquility, far removed from the complexities of my previous life with him and his family. When William called this time, I wondered what urgent matter had prompted his reach. It turned out to be a crisis. Their house was in the process of being seized. In the background, I could hear the anxious voices of his family, Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah, each filled with desperation. William, panic evident in his voice, pleaded for my help. An enforcement officer was at their doorstep, explaining that the house was set for auction and they were on the verge of eviction. I was genuinely surprised when I inquired about any warning letters, suggesting they hadn't received any. Upon further questioning, he sheepishly admitted that such letters might have been intentionally overlooked, opened without any action taken. Each family member seemed to assume that someone else was managing the loan repayments. As the reality of their situation sank in, foreclosure looming, and the full loan amount demanded immediately, I couldn't help expressing my frustration at William's apparent hopelessness. I suggested pooling their savings as a potential solution, only to be met with the bleak reality that such an option was off the table. Samantha and Tyler had depleted their savings on lavish travels, banking on their son's future support, while Hannah hadn't left her job by choice. She'd been fired for embezzling funds, a far cry from the successful city life she claimed to lead. The financial facade they maintained crumbled, revealing a dire situation. William had exhausted his savings, living under the pretense of a lucrative job while his family indulged in extravagance, all under the false assumption that their financial stability was secure. The accumulation of these poor decisions led to the inevitable seizure of their home. In the midst of this chaos, William made a desperate proposition for all of us to live together in my luxury condo, as if our divorce hadn't severed our legal and emotional ties. My response was firm and unequivocal. I refuse. Our divorce marked the end of our shared paths, and my new life in the condo was a sanctuary built for my independence and success, far removed from the turmoil and deceit that had characterized our marriage. As the saga unfolded, my resolve hardened, especially after hearing my ex-in-laws, Samantha, Tyler, and Hannah, hurling insults at me in the background of the call. They called me heartless, a scammer, and a thief, only solidifying my decision to cut ties with them. Their bitterness and blame were a direct consequence of their own choices, showing no signs of self-reflection or remorse. Eventually, their argument spiraled inward, turning into a cacophony of blame among themselves. At that moment, I chose to sever all ties, quietly ending the call and ensuring no further contact by blocking William's number. A few days later, a newspaper headline caught my eye, detailing a father-son altercation that escalated to police intervention, immediately raising suspicions about William and his family. Confirmation came through a mutual acquaintance, revealing the dispute did indeed involve them and stemmed from tensions that boiled over after my last conversation with William. The altercation led to their arrest and minor injuries for all involved, along with a police warning. This incident not only bruised their physical well-being but also tarnished William's professional reputation, as rumors of the fight spread through his workplace, leaving him in a precarious position. Following the fight, the house was sold and the family relocated to a dilapidated apartment, a stark contrast to their previous living conditions. Their new life was marred by infestations and neighborly complaints, marking a significant downgrade. Hannah's history of embezzlement further complicated their attempts to stabilize, making it nearly impossible for her to secure employment. Thus, the family's financial burden fell solely on William, who, despite his efforts to locate me, found his inquiries fruitless thanks to the discretion of our mutual friends and the vigilance of my condo's concierge service. This chapter of my life, filled with turmoil and strife, felt conclusively closed as I embraced my new existence in the luxury condo. Far removed from the chaos, my days were now filled with hobbies, work, and the peaceful solitude of single life. The decision to move forward, unencumbered by the past or thoughts of marriage, was not just a choice but a declaration of my newfound independence and contentment.